Okay, so in this video, we're going to be taking a look at deploying, like how we push code to our repo, and then once that's your tests have run and everything's good, how we build Docker containers, and then how we notify that we need to deploy, and then how we redeploy as a result of that. So we're leveraging a tool called Webhook Relay. Basically what this is doing is this is receiving the message from Docker, which we'll look at here in a minute. And it then has a backdoor channel to Keel, informing it, basically passing that webhook along. So you're going to install this and update, and then you're going to go to Webhook Relay and get keys. There are keys that you will be using, a key and a secret, and you'll essentially add those here, and then push this operator into your system, and that essentially will establish the connection between Webhook Relay and your Kubernetes cluster. Then the next thing that you need to do is you need to install keel, and keel is installed typically into the kube system, and you'll be using a values file, and that values file essentially the only thing I have in mind is basic authentication for the web user interface, and otherwise it's a stock system. And so you will deploy that, and the key here is that in your app.yaml file you have this annotations with a keel policy. And so if you set this, for example, there's major, minor, a few other things like that. In this case, we're looking for snapshot changes where the snapshot ID changes. And when that occurs, we will redeploy. Essentially, keel will automatically take the image and redeploy it based on it being changed. And so that's the gist of how those pieces work. So there's not a lot of complexity to this. There's not a lot of setup to this. It's really a very straightforward endeavor to get that up and running. So then the other piece that needs to be built is, let me go to the Docker container and I'll show, or Docker Hub, and I'll show that. So first, let's take a look at Webhook Relay. So in here, there's these buckets, and the bucket has the endpoint that is what's being listened for. And you'll need this because this information is this URL is the URL you're going to put into Docker Hub. I'm not going to show mine here, but essentially it's an IP address or an HTTP address, and it has a big series of numbers, and then my.webhookrelay.com or something like that. But that's essentially what it looks like. So when everything is connected, you should see that there's an endpoint and a forwarding destination, and then you have stats and things like that here. So that's what this looks like. Let me go to Docker Hub. So within Docker Hub, you have your image, and your image will, in webhooks, you've got a webhook here, and this is my webhook. And that is essentially all you're doing. There's nothing else to configure here. It's super straightforward. And yeah, and then the last piece to this obviously is that your actions, whether it's GitHub Actions or whether it's your GitHub CI or you're running tests, and I'll look at that here in a second, is basically running. You're gonna push that to Docker Hub when you're done as a step. And when you do, it's going to come here, and it's going to match your tag, and it's going to fire a webhook, and Keel will receive that, and it will redeploy your application. And that's essentially the way that works. So the key here, and I flip back, is that you can then go to rollout history, and when you do that, you'll be able to see the changes that have come through in the automated update, and you then can use this rollback logic to manage your things. So say you deploy one that's bad, you can revert, that kind of thing. And so that is the methodology. The last piece of this, obviously, is setting up your CI, and I will do that in the next video.